ሰላም ተመልካቾቻችን እንደምን ሰንብታችኋል? በዛሬ ፕሮግራማችን ሁለት የማስተዋወቃችሁ የፊልም ፕሮዲዩሰሮች እንግዶች ይዤላችሁ የቀረብኩት ወጣቶች ናቸው። የሚሰሯቸው ስራዎች በጣም የሚያስደስቱ፣ የሚያስተምሩ፣ የሚያዝናኑ ናቸውና በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል ከነሱ ጋር ይህን ጊዜ ለማሳለፍ በመቻሌ። የመጀመሪያ እንግዳዬ አቶ ኔት ናታን አራያ እንኳን ደህና መጣ። አመሰግናለሁ። So Nathan, filmmaker, director, community leader, አይደለ? TV host. ባክግራውንዱ ቢዝነስ ነው አይደለ? You have an MBA. ግን ብዙ ይሄ ፓሽን ብለህ የምትሰራው ስራ ፊልም ላይ ነው። ናታን የተወለደው እዚህ ሀገር ነው፣ ጋርላንድ ቴክሳስ ውስጥ። ስለዚህ ትንሽ አማርኛ ሊቸግረው ስለሚችል
ትንሽ ችግር
ዘና ፈታ ብሎ ሐሳባችንን በደንብ እየተግባባን መነጋገር እንድንችል ቆይታችንን ከናታን ጋር ማረገው በእንግሊዝኛ ነው። ስለዚህ ከወዲሁ ይቅርታ እየጠየቅን ግን እንደምትከታተሉን እንደምትሳተፉበት እርግጠኛ ነኝ። ናታን እንኳን ደህና መጣ።
አመሰግናለሁ። እንደምናችሁ ደህና ናችሁ? የኔ አማርኛ በጣም ትንሽ ነው ግን እንግሊዝኛ ይሻላል። So let me put out my Amaranya right now. As I said, እንደምናችሁ and Oromኛ ቀምጅርጡ and Tigrinya ከመላሃ and that's about it. Everything else is going to be in English. Let's have yakarta right here. And here. Big.
ስላረከው ጥረት በሙሉ በጣም አመሰግናለሁ።
ምንም ችግር የለም።
አዎ በእውነት ጥረት በጣም የሚደነቅ ነገር ነው። So, ተወልደ ያደግከው ጋርላንድ ቴክሳስ, right?
Yeah.
You're born and raised in Garland, Texas, to a single mom,
right?
So tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
Yeah,
how you grew up, a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So, my dad left when I was 10 years old, so I grew up with a single mom, and I have two younger brothers.
Okay.
So, I grew up the oldest, and as we all know, the oldest is the one that gets the most beatings. Qabato hulugize.
That's true.
Qabato. And they, so like I was the role model plus the experiment.
You must have been a little rough one for your mom to spend that much time with Qabato.
I had a lot of energy and I didn't know what to do with it, Helen.
Okay.
What can I tell you?
Okay. So, that did it for you.
Yeah. But at the same time, it helped me, grow. And understand responsibility at a young age.
Yeah.
So in the house, I was really taking care of my family, looking after them, and I just grew up so fast. My experience was a result of, growing up in a broken home and kind of, understanding my value as a man was a common struggle, but at the same time, it produced purpose in the process.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
And also even, your mom being an immigrant in this country, right? She has her own value system, know, how she grew up, and she kind of want to bring that towards her children. And this country, brings its own challenges, especially, raising boys is a very different, brings its own sets of challenges, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, your experience growing up in the Ethiopian community, because you seem to do a lot in the community. You are very much engaged in your church as a youth, just connecting with young people, doing a lot of work with young people. Tell me the big divide that you see within the community, because it kind of connects with the work that you do, right? So just the connection between the immigrant community as a first generation.
Well, if we start at home, I was a first generation American.
Right.
So my mom migrated to this country seeking education and opportunity.
Right.
The struggle that we're seeing with parents is that though they have their own experiences, perspectives, values, and ideals, there is a clash with the first generation.
True.
So as they're seeking education opportunity, the biggest challenge for the first generation American is how do I leverage this education and opportunity?
Right.
So there is external pressure on the first generation experience that creates internal conflict and helping us trying to understand who we are, where we belong to, and what culture are we supposed to kind of embrace. Because as a kid, I never felt Ethiopian enough or African enough, and I never felt American enough. So there was always a disconnect and a sense of insecurity. And my mom can only do so much. Our parents as immigrants can only tell us so much because they grew up in Ethiopia, they grew up in Africa, so they have their own ways of dealing with things and seeing certain issues. So as I was growing in America, my mom was growing with me.
That's true.
So that's what's happening with parents, immigrant parents and first generation. We are growing together. And at the moment, I didn't know that she was learning a culture and trying to teach me at the same time. So learning and raising kids has its difficulties. And when I look back at it, I really respect and love our parents so much more now, because you don't understand it when you're a kid. You just see your side of things and how your parents don't understand, and you throw a fit, and there's a disconnect within the household. So when you get older, you start understanding that from a macro level, you're able to look at a certain situation in a family dynamic, in a home, and take a step back. And then at that point, you seek to understand before you seek to be understood.
That's true.
So that's what happened.
And I guess all of these experiences like informed you and kind of shaped the way you think and you live out your life, right? And so I think that explains how you've produced these two Ethiopian-related, documentaries. This is yours. The Diaspora Journal is your second or your third project, right? So what was your first two projects? Tell me about those, and then we'll get into this Diaspora Journal.
Yeah. So my first project is called Sincerely Ethiopia.
Okay.
And it's a project about people and programs that are impacting their communities in unique ways. And growing up as a kid, I was never proud of my country or where my family came from, because all you would hear through the news is devastation, disease, or disaster.
Right.
So I knew from my mom and my family that would visit, or other family members that would visit, that Ethiopia wasn't all of that. There were certain issues that existed, but those weren't Ethiopia or African issues. Those were global issues that no one was really giving a platform to share. So I wanted to share a different side of the story that what many people are used to seeing in the media. I wanted to share more of the positive people and heroes that are on the ground level making a significant amount of impact. And those were a different side of the story that I felt wasn't being shared. So my goal with Sincerely Ethiopia wasn't to tell the story of all of Ethiopia, but I'm Kabano. I couldn't do that. That would be bad for me.
Who was your audience? Who were you doing that for?
I was doing that for the Western world. It was a reintroduction of what this country, of another story of what this country is, and the people that live there. Because oftentimes we go through life being misdefined and misinformed.
Right.
So our job as storytellers, as me and you are, is to be able to share a perspective. So I received so much information as a kid that was negative that I felt I needed to present an alternative. I need to be able to present new information to people that are in need so that they can have a holistic understanding of who people are, how do they live life, what is their worldview, where do they get their values. And I think once we understand a different side of things, it helps us grow as individuals so that we can live a progressive life. So
true. So you went to Ethiopia in 2011.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was that experience like? Because it was a first timer.
All right.
I mean, I'm sure you were, it was an eye-opening experience. And I don't know if you did that documentary after you went to Ethiopia or before.
Yeah.
Did you do it before or after?
It was at the same time.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So tell me, what was your experience like?
So when I went to Ethiopia for the first time in 2011, it was my first time shooting a film and my first time being exposed to the country.
Wow.
As soon as I landed, I remember walking around the city or driving in the car, and everyone looked like me.
Yeah.
And that was scary because growing up as a kid, I was always the minority, right?
In Texas.
And in Ethiopia, you're the majority. And that was such a shock for me to understand, because to be a part of a majority of people that look like you, that walk like you, that talk like you, it does something for your self-esteem.
Absolutely.
And lack of representation and misrepresentation are difficult things that we deal with in America, especially when we don't understand what you can possibly be. So growing up as a kid, again, I grew up listening to rap and looking at basketball players, and I didn't see, a first-generation American who got their master's degree, that was a filmmaker, that was a community leader, that was a storyteller. I didn't see that. So I had to learn through conversations, through mistakes, through experience, and I had to teach others at the same time while I was learning. So those were some of the difficulties, but in Ethiopia, that was one of the biggest realizations, to understand that, wow, I'm in a place where I can be empowered because I'm a part of a majority of people that look similar to me.
how did you feel like you were received? Because you don't speak the language. I mean, just enough to get around on the streets, right? But how did you feel you were received? Because again, you know, there's the language barrier. I know when I take my children, they understand the language. I mean, they hear the language, but they don't really speak it. And sometimes you kind of have that otherness feeling, even though you're there and feeling all this inclusiveness, you still feel like, okay, do I really belong here? And so how did you feel the community received you?
Well, when I went into Ethiopia, I didn't want to go in as a Western savior, especially shooting a film. I think there is a negative stigma that comes around with diaspora. They think that diasporas are spoiled. They, you know, and they aren't proud of their country. They just go in, they blow money. You know, there's a common stigma, and maybe some of them may be true. There are people that do certain things, but that's not all of the diaspora. So for me, I wanted to come in willing to learn, willing to serve, and willing to be able to immerse myself in people's lives and embrace the culture that they live in. So that was my mentality. And so I did that through many various different ways. I spent a day shining shoes on the street with
Did you?
With a kid named Barakat. Amazing kid, 10 years old. He is a CEO of his business, running things. Straight
I
boss.
love it. Boss man.
Boss man. I call him boss. Boss Barakat. But you know, I got a chance to like really learn and see from a lot of these people that were doing things and immersing myself. So for me, engaging in those conversations and coming at it from a place of let me just embrace this place and not compare it to America, not compare it to anything else, but love it for what it is. I think that allowed me to at least grow with the culture and the people that are there.
That's wonderful. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue on and talk about the Diaspora Journal. We'll be back in a minute. ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ከረፍት ቆይታችን ተመልሰናል። ከናታን አሪያ ጋር የምናደርገውን ቆይታ እየቀጠልን ነው። ቅድም መግቢያችን ላይ እንደጠቀስኩላችሁ ቆይታችንን ከናታን ጋር የምናደርገው በእንግሊዝኛ ነው። ናታን አሜሪካዊ ነው። American ሀገር ነው ተወልዶ ያደገው። Nathan, before we went on a break, we had talked about your trip to Ethiopia. And you went to Ethiopia for the first time in 2011, and subsequently you've gone every year or every other year, right? There's an experience that you and I both shared. I was just in Ethiopia in January. And my dad was taking me to all kinds of museums. I was there for a week, and I think I pretty much saw all the museums in Addis, which was an amazing experience for me. And so on our way to go to Entoto to see Minilik's museum, I don't know if you've seen it, where when they have an exhibit, and then it shows where they first settled when they were in Addis. So on our way there, you know how Entoto is hilly, very just steep hill. And so as we were driving, I noticed these women, half my size, coming down carrying these huge loads of woods. Now, I have seen that growing up in Ethiopia many years ago when I was a kid. But for some reason, there was something about those women and their faces. I felt like, oh gosh, I need to feel them. I need to know what they're experiencing. So I asked our driver, and my dad was with me, my husband was with me, my brother was with me. I said, can we just pull over? I want to see if I could carry this, because I didn't know. I mean, these women were just marching down the hill, and some of them were much older than me. Some of them are very young. So we pulled over, pulled to the side of the road. I tried to carry that wood. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it for 5 minutes. I couldn't do it for 2 minutes. That's how heavy it was. And it really was an humbling experience for me. It kind of changed the way I see those women. You did that. What was that like for you?
Yeah, like you said, I was just driving up the Entoto Mountain. I saw all these older women walking down that were 60, 70 years old. You know, they were just older women, and they're all women. That was so shocking to me. You know, and I saw that, and then I told my friends, let's just pull over. I really want to be able to see, you know, what they're carrying and see if I can assist them in taking it down for them, because it was just, I'd never been exposed to something like that. So we stopped the car on Entoto, and then told the lady we would love to kind of take the branches. So she took me to the place, and then I got the rope and placed it around me. And then from there, I lifted it, and as I stood up, this wood is not smooth wood that's cut. There are
poking
pricks poking into your back. So I'm standing there with a heavy set of wood with it, and it's piercing my back. So I'm walking down, and I guarantee you, like, there was so much pain, and it was so heavy. And I work out at 24 Hour Fitness. I have a membership. Thank you very much.
I don't. So that was twice as hard.
I try. But at the same time, even being in the gym, as and working out, it did not amount to the strength that those women had. So I'm carrying those the pieces of wood, and I can barely make it 10 feet, 20 feet. 30. My friends were encouraging me, telling me, keep going, you have to do this for her. You have to. And it was just such a difficult situation to kind of understand what they go through. And I think I was speaking with her after I got done, and she said she was doing that from 5 a.m. till 6 p.m. at night, up and down a mountain. I mean, that has
got to be something else. I mean, I am hoping we'll figure something out for these ladies. But I thought, we shared that experience. I wanted to know what that was like for you. Let's come to Diaspora Journal, your newest production. Right. What inspired you to do that?
So the Diaspora Journal was a film that I shot while I was shooting Sincerely Ethiopia. It was not a planned film. There was moments I would just sit on the curb waiting to grab some lunch after we shot a scene from Sincerely Ethiopia, and I saw a bus and I said, hey guys, let's rent a bus and let's give people free rides all around the city. Let me just kind of dive in and learn from people and their lives. So we started giving people free rides all around the city, and I was a Wayala for a day. I didn't expect that to be a part of a film. I just wanted to capture the experience for memories and really dive into the lives of people. But that happened. And then meeting Barakat, shooting that was on my off time. I was free. I wasn't expecting to shoot a film. I just wanted to understand his perspective, his life, and capture some moments. So I did this over a series of 3, 4, 5 years while I was been visiting Ethiopia. So then at one screening, when I was at Sincerely Ethiopia in San Diego, I was telling people that I never felt fully connected as a first-generation American. I never felt African enough or American enough. And then someone raised their hand and looked at me and said, Nate, that's a movie. And I was shocked. I was like, I never really thought of my life story being a movie. I never thought, again, it's hard to be someone that you have never beheld. If I haven't been able to see a story like mine in the movies, it was very tough for me to see that it was worth producing. So at that moment, when that individual told me that could be a movie, that inspired me. And I started thinking and contemplating, and I saw all of this footage that I captured in Ethiopia that didn't make it into Sincerely Ethiopia. So then I wrote a whole script based off of the footage I already shot and the narrative and the perspective and the educational experiences that I had in Ethiopia. So it was kind of reverse. I shot everything. I just pieced it together in a film with a narrative sharing my personal journey through self-reflection.
What do you want people to take away from it?
I want people to know this. I want people to understand their value as a person. Again, the first generation diaspora culture, we feel disconnected. We feel like we're not African enough or American enough. I want people to know that they are enough and that there is value in your narrative, in your perspective, and there is a purpose, a God given purpose in your life, that you're called to do something phenomenal in this world. So I'm here to be a bridge through my vulnerability. And vulnerability is never easy, but I want people to understand that it's okay to show your flaws. Because, for example, if I had a cut on my arm and someone stabbed me, I can look at the cut and be able to look and be reminded of the pain that someone gave me years ago. And sometimes we have these burdens that we carry and hurts. Or through forgiveness and through understanding and recognizing what happened, I can look at that and say healing is available, because all cuts turn into wounds and they cover up. Right. So for me, I want the Diaspora Journal, this film, to be a vehicle of healing, of acknowledging the pain and the hurt and the disconnect, but also knowing that there is healing, there's change, there is power in vulnerability, there's power in conversation. There is a new culture that you've built that's just as valuable as the different cultures that make you who you are.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And here's the thing that I say, because sometimes people get annoyed and they email me, it's like, whoa, why did you bring this person? Or he speaks English. Don't you respect your language? You should know your language. You should respect it, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Here's one thing that they're missing. You are just an Ethiopian. Your experience is just as valued as the fully Ethiopian Amharic speaking Ethiopian. You know what I mean? You want to know your culture. You want to be part of your culture. So that opportunity should be there for you. And we should be able to embrace everyone's experiences and wherever angle they come from. You know, yours, we happen to be English speaking and we happen to be in the US, but we have brothers and sisters in Europe that live either in Germany or in France, and they grew up or were born and raised there. They have those experiences and they speak German, they speak different languages, and they all want to be part of this community. So I think, to me, you know, as an Ethiopian who was born there and who grew up here, I say to the Ethiopians that are watching this program and just kind of challenging, why are you doing this and blah, blah, blah. Look at Nate for who he is. Look at his experience for who he was, and let's embrace him. Let's see what we can learn from his experience in whatever language he happens to speak. Right? And so when you were in Ethiopia, especially from, you spent quite a bit of time with the young people. What was your observation? What did you see from them? What do you wish people that live in this country understand about, young people in Ethiopia from what you've just observed?
I mean, the young people in Ethiopia, I feel like, can be also misdefined, and people here can be misinformed about young people in Ethiopia. And I think that there are skillful, talented, smart individuals that are innovative, creative, and ahead of the curve. So I want people to recognize that no matter where you're from, and where you live, if it's in Ethiopia or if it's in America, you are just as valuable, So I don't want to dismiss, I'll never want to dismiss anyone based off where they're from. So I feel like my experiences with the youth there is just, I'm blown away. I was blown away. So that's one thing. And I also just felt that, for me, I want people to understand that the worldview that they have, the perspective, there's a rich culture that's there that they hold, that is just so profound, and it's something that we can learn from, you know. And so I think a lot of people in the Western world feel like they can teach every developing country everything.
That's true. That's true. And then also, as a filmmaker, because this is self-financed for you, right? This is your passion project. You have a full-time job, but this is your creative outlet where you put your experiences. I feel like we have so many stories that are not told, right? So many experiences that are not shared. What advice do you give for young people that potentially have a story that they need to tell? What do you say to them? How should they, start pursuing this dream and putting their stories out there?
Yeah, I think everything starts with a personal need. So every personal need that you encounter in your life can be a global solution. So I always tell people there's a reason why you see certain things the way you see them. There's a reason why you encounter certain situations and feel a certain way. And that should not be discounted because the media doesn't promote it. And so I always tell people, be your authentic self and start with a personal problem that can lead to a global solution. So for me, the barriers of my past became bridges for my future. And what I mean by that is every barrier that I faced in my life of feeling disconnected, dealing with identity issues, feeling insecure, feeling like I don't fit in, all those barriers became bridges of conversation and change to other people that go through those same barriers and deal with that. So those things have become my empowerment.
And your strength.
And my strength.
Absolutely. So you've been showing this series where? Like here in the US? Do you plan to show it in Ethiopia?
Yeah, I've been sharing it with around different universities, churches, and nonprofits around the world, really. And the way it works is people, see kind of some promos or look at my social media and they want to be able to use this resource as conversational pieces or as learning opportunities. So we do screening by demand. So honestly, if there's any place in Europe, if it's in Ethiopia, if it's in America, it's open. It's an open film for everyone to use, to love, to learn, as they do their screenings.
Great. So what's next for Nathan?
That's a good question.
A tough question.
What's next? I feel like you're my mom right now. What's next? Never satisfied. I wish our moms are never satisfied. Okay, is she? Okay. Boy, what's next? Mom, I just got an A. You have to get an AA.
A+.
What is an A+? A+++. I'm like, Mama, I did this. It's always what's next, right? So I've decided to live life with what's now.
Good for you.
Because I'm a big fan of, whatever you feed will grow.
That's true.
So my job is not to try to figure out what's next. It's my job is to do what I can with what I have, with where I'm at, and healthy things grow. So if I tend to it the right way, it will grow into what it is.
That is a good plan.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sharing and for making this. And I'm glad we met, and I'm sure people would receive this very well. So if you want to show, reach out to Nathan through his social media, and you'll be able to share this documentary with anybody, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
My pleasure. Alright, ተመልካቾቻችን ስንመለስ ደግሞ የሁለተኛ እንግዳይ ጋር የምናደርገው ቆይታ ይኖራል። ከኛ ጋር ቆዩ። ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ከረፍት ቆይታችን ተመልሰናል አሁን ደግሞ በስቱዲያችን የጋበዝኩላችሁ እንግዳ አቶ እንድሪያስ ጌታቸው እንኳን ደህና መጣ ፎቶግራፈር ደራሲ ፕሮዲዩሰር እና በቅርብ ጊዜ አዘጋጅቶ ያቀረበው ዶክመንተሪ አለ Breathe in the Root የሚባል very fascinating documentary የአንድ አፍሪካን አሜሪካን ወጣት ሳይ ክርስቲያን ጆሴፍ የሚባል ወጣት ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ሄዶ በሱ ያደረገውን ቆይታ ነው ይሄ ዶክመንተሪ የሚያሳየው በጣም የሚገርም ቆይታ ነበር ያደረገው የተወሰነ ቦታ ማንነቱን ለማወቅ ወደ አፍሪካ ተመልሶ ስለማንነቱ ለመረዳት የሰራው ስራ ነው ይሄ እና እንግዲህ እንድሪያስ ትንሽ ስለሱ ትነግረናለህ ማለት ነው እንኳን ደህና መጣ መጀመሪያ
እንኳን ደህና ቆያችሁኝ ኦኬ አመሰግናለሁ በጣም ለዚህ እድል እንግዲህ Breathe in the Roots የክሪስ በክሪስ ነው የሚሄደው የክሪስን ታሪክ ትንሽ ለመግለጽ የሞከርንበት ነው ክሪስ ከአሜሪካ ወደ ኢትዮጵያ ወደ አፍሪካ የራሱን ማንነት የራሱን እንደ ጥቁር አሜሪካዊ እንደ አፍሪካን አሜሪካዊ የአፍሪካ የሚለው ፓርት ምን ማለት ነው የሚለውን ለማወቅ ወደ አፍሪካ ይመጣል ኢትዮጵያን ደግሞ የመረጠው ኢትዮጵያ ከዚህ ቀደም በቀኝ ገዥነት ስላልተያዘች ነፃነቷን ያረጋገጠች ሀገር ምንም የውጪ አስተዋጽኦ ብዙ የሌለበት ሀገር መሄድ ፈልጋለሁ ብሎ ነው ኢትዮጵያ የመጣው እና ኢትዮጵያ ያለ የኢትዮጵያ ኦርቶዶክስ ቤተክርስቲያን እዛ ለጸሎት ሄዶ የሆነ መንፈሳዊ ጥሪ አገኘሁኝ ነው ያለና spiritual epiphany ብሎ ነው የሚገልጸው እና ያም የተገለጸለት ወደ ላሊበላ በመንፈሳዊ ጉዞ መሄድ እንዳለበትና ሲሄድ በመኪና ወይም በአውሮፕላን ወይ በአውቶቡስ ሳይሆን ወይ በእግሩ ወይም ደግሞ መንፈሳዊ ስፒሪት አኒማል በየመንፈስ እንስሳ ከሱ ጋር መሆን አለበት የሚል ጥሪ አገኘው ነው ያለኝ እና ፈረስ ከአቃቂ የጋሪ ፈረስ ገዝቶ ወደ ላሊበላ ጉዞ ለመሄድ እንዳሰበ ነገረኝ
ያን ታውቀው ነበር ከዚህ በፊት ክርስቲያን or
አላውቀውም ነበር
እሺ ሰው ነው ያስተዋወቃችሁ
ሰው ነው ያስተዋወቀን በወቅቱ ዩኒሴፍ ነበር የምሰራው እና በመጀመሪያ ያን ጉዞን በሚያካሂድበት ጊዜ ለአስተማሪም ነበር እንደ እንግሊዘኛ አስተማሪ ነው ወደ ኢትዮጵያ የመጣው እና የኢትዮጵያ ትምህርት ቤቶች ሁኔታ በጣም ያሳዝነው ነበር እና ለትምህርት ቤቶች አንዳንድ እርዳታ ለማድረግ የራሴንም የሆነ ነገር መሞከር አለብኝ በማለት በሶሻል ሚዲያ ጉዞን እያስተዋወቀ ገንዘብ ለማሰባሰብ ፈልጎ ነበር እና በሱ ላይ ነበር ለማማከር መጥቶ ያነጋገረኝ ያንን ስሰማ እንግዲህ በወቅቱ ከዩኒሴፍ ጋር መስራት አልቻለም ነበር ከሌሎች ኤንጂኦዎች ጋር እንዲሞክር መክረው ነው ነበር ግን ሐሳቡን ሲነግረኝ አንደኛ ሐሳቡ በፈረስ መሄዱ ተሰምቶ የማይታወቅ ነገር ሁለተኛ ደግሞ የሚያልፍበትን አገር ሳስበው የሚሄድበትን ታሪካዊ ቦታዎች እኔ ውስጥም የነበረ አንድ ነገር ቀሰቀሰብኝ እዚህ አሜሪካ ነው ትምህርቴን የጨረስኩት ዩኒቨርሲቲ ያለሁኝ በ77 ነበር ወደ በእኛ በኢትዮጵያ አቆጣጠር እሺ ወደ አሜሪካ የመጣሁት ያኔ ታላቁ ድርቅ ነበር በድርቅ ነበር የምትታወቀው ኢትዮጵያውያኖች ማንነታችን ራሱ ብዙ ኢትዮጵያውያኖች ኢትዮጵያዊ ነን ብለን ለመግለጽ የሚያሳፍርም አይነት ሁኔታ ውስጥ ነበር እና ከ7 አመት በኋላ ዩኒቨርሲቲ እየተማርኩኝ አፍሪካን አሜሪካ
በልጅነት ነበር የመጣው ማለት ነው
በልጅነት ነበር የመጣሁት 13 አመት ኦኬ እሺ so fast forward to university እየተማርኩኝ በወቅቱ ሩሜት የነበረ ቢግ ብራዘር ሊትል ብራዘር ፕሮግራም ነበራቸው ዩኒቨርሲቲ ውስጥ እና የዩኒቨርሲቲያችን እስላም አካባቢ ውስጥ ነበር
የችግረኛ ሰፈር ያለበት
የችግረኛ ሰፈር ነበርና ብዙ ጥቁር አሜሪካኖች ያሉበት ነው እና የሆኑ ህፃናት እየተጣሉ ነበር መንገድ ላይ እና እየተሰዳደቡ እና አንዱ ሌላውን ምን ብሎ ይሰድባል ዩ ኢትዮጵያን ብሎ ይሰድባል እና መጣ ማይሩም
ኢትዮጵያዊ ብሎ ሰደበው
ዩ ኢትዮጵያን
ማለቱ ምን ማለቱ ነበር
ማለት እንግዲህ ይሄ የኢትዮጵያ ገጽታ በሚዲያ የተቀረጸው ገጽታ በሰው አስተሳሰብ ውስጥ እስከዛ ድረስ እንግዲህ 7-8 ዓመት አልፎ ነበር የድርቁ ካለፈ በኋላ ግን እስከዛ ድረስ ኢትዮጵያውያኖች እንደ ደሃ ሀገር እንደ ችግረኛ ሀገር ነበር የምትታወቀው እነዚህ ህፃናትም ያንን ነው የሚያውቁት ያንን ነው የሚሰሙት ዩ ኢትዮጵያን እንደ ስድብ አንተ ችግረኛ ናት ቤተሰቦች ደሃ ናቸው ለማለት እስከዛ ድረስ እንደዛ ነበር የምትታየውና ያ ውስጤን መረበሽ ብቻ ሳይሆን ያሳዝናል ለኢትዮጵያ ብቻ ሳይሆን ለህፃናቶቹም ስለ ኢትዮጵያ ቢያውቁ እነዚህ ህፃናት የኢትዮጵያን ታሪክ የኢትዮጵያን ለዓለም ስልጣኔ ያበረከተችውን በመላ ቢያውቁ ኑሮ እንዴት እነሱም የሚኮሩባት ሀገር ትሆን ነበርና ይሄ ውስጤ ነበረ እና ሁሌ ወደ አሜሪካ መለሳለሁ ብዬ ሳስብ የሆነ ነገር ለነዛ ልጆች አሁን እንግዲህ አድገዋል ግን ለነሱ ያሉበት ኮሚኒቲ ውስጥ የሆነ ነገር ይዤ መመለስ አለብኝና ክሪስ በሚመጣበት ጊዜ ጥቁር አሜሪካዊ ነው አፍሪካን አሜሪካዊ ነው ቋንቋውም አነጋገሩም አገላለጹም ለነሱ የሚቀርብ ነው እኔ ከምናገረው እሱ ቢናገረው ይሻላል የሚሄድበትንም አካባቢ የሚሄድበትንም ቦታ ሲገልጽልኝ ይሄ ነገር እስቲ ምናልባት ያን ውስጥ የነበረው ነገር በዛም በኩል ማስተላለፍ እንችል ይሆናል በማለት ነው እንግዲህ ፕሮጀክቱ ውስጥ ልንገባ ይቻልኩት
በጣም የሚገርም ነገር ነው መቼስ ከዚህ ሀገር ሄዶ አንድ ሰው እሺ እንኳንስ ከዚህ ሀገር ሄደ ማታቀበት ሀገር ቋንቋውን የማይናገርበት ሀገር እሺ ሰምቶበት አይቶበት ማቀት መጥቶ በፈረስ ላይ ሆኜ እቺን ሀገር ጨለማም አለ ቀንም አለ ማኒ ጉዳ ማኒጥቀመህ አታቅም እንደዚህ አይነት ጀርኒ ለመውሰድ መቻሉ የዚህ ልጅ ማንነት ይገልጻል ማለት ነው በጣም የሚገርም ሰው ነው
በጣም የሚገርም ሰው ነው ፊልም ውስጥም ላሊበላ ሲደርስ አንድ ቄስ አሉ ሽማግሌ ቄስ ኢንተርቪው ያደረግናቸው ቃለ ምልልስ ያደረግናቸውና በጣም ነው የተገረሙት ጠየቅናቸው ከዚህ በፊት ከዚህ ቀደም እንደዚህ ሰምተው ያውቃሉ ወይ በፈረስ ወደ ላሊበላ የመጣ እና ሰምቼ አላውቅም ነው ያሉት ከዚህ ቀደም ምናልባት በበቅሎ በምን ሰው ይመጣ ነበር ከጣሊያን ከሄደ ጀምሮ ግን ያው በመኪና ወይ ወደ ወልዲያ ይመጡና የተወሰነ በእግራቸው ወይ በበቅሎ ያደርጋሉ እንጂ ከአዲስ አበባ ተነስቶ በፈረስ እዚህ ድረስ የሚመጣ ሰው የመጀመሪያ ነው ሲሰማ እና እንዴት መንፈስ ቅዱስ ተጠግቶት ይሄንን ማድረጉ በጣም ይገርም ነው አለ እና ልጁማ የሚገርም ታሪክ ነው በጣም የሚገርም ታሪክ
ስንት ጊዜ ፈጀባችሁ ይሄንን ለመስራት
ስንጀምረው 20 ቀን ይፈጃል ነበር የተባባል ነው እና አብሮኝ ፕሮዲዩስ የተደረገው በጆቢራው ፊልም ፕሮዳክሽን one of the ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ የሴት ፊልም ድርጅት I think maybe the first ሴት ባለሙያ ሴት ባለቤት ኤፍራታ በላቸው አብራኝ ፕሮዲዩስ ያደረገችው ከነሱ ጋር ስንመካከር 20 ቀን ነበር የተባባል ነው ያው እንደ ታሰበው አይሆንም 45 ቀን ነው መጨረሻ ላይ ፈጀበት
እሺ
እና ብዙ ውጣ ወረድ ነበረው
ከባዱ ውጣ ወረዱ ምንድን ነበር
የፈረስ ችግር ነበር ፈረሱም መንገድ ላይ መንገዱን መለማመዱ ከሰው ጋር ያለው ግንኙነት አይደለም ያ በጣም ነው ኢትዮጵያን በጣም ነው የሚያመሰግነው በፊልም ውስጥ እሱም የተለያዩ ስፖንሰሮች አብረውን ስፖንሰር ያደረጉን ድርጅቶች ነበሩ ለምሳሌ አንኮቨር ኢኮሎጅ የተለያዩ ነበሩ እነሱን እዛ ማረፍም አልፈለገም ትልቅ ሆቴል ውስጥ ማረፍ አልፈለገም ከህብረተሰቡ ጋር ነው መኖር የምፈልገው ሰው እንዴት እንደሚኖር ነው ማየት የምፈልገው አቨሬጅ ኢትዮጵያን እና ከአርሶ አደር ጋር ነበር ሲያድር የነበረው ከተማ ውስጥ ሲገባ የሚተዋወቃቸው ሰዎች አሉ ከነሱ ጋር ያርፋል ሆቴል ውስጥ ማረፍ ካለበት ደግሞ ማንም ሰው መንገድ ላይ ያረፈ ነበር ሄደው ስለዚህ የት እንደሚያድር የፈረስ ምግብ ከየት እንደሚያገኝ እንደዛ አይነት ነገሮች እንደዛ አይነት ችግሮች ነው እንጂ በፈረስ ምን ያህል ጊዜ ይፈጃል የሚለውን አላሰበውም ነበር እኔም እንግዲህ የተወሰኑ ካሰበው ካቀደው መንገድ የተወሰኑ ዲቱሮች እንዲያደርግ አድርጌ ነበር የሆኑ ታሪካዊ ቦታዎች እንዲያይ ለምሳሌ አንኮበር ወሰድ ነው ከአንኮበር ወደ ደብረ ሲና ለመሄድ በአቋራጭ መንገድ ከገበሬዎች ጋር ወደ ገበያ የሚሄዱ ገበሬዎች ጋር ከነሱ ጋር ሄዳሉ ብሎ አንድ ቀን ይፈጃል የተባለው መንገድ 2-3 ቀን ፈጀበት ከዛም ላሊበላ ሊደርስ አካባቢ እንግዲህ ይሄን ሁሉ አብዛኛው ከራሳት ከኪሳችን ነበር
That's going to be my next question እንዴት ፋይናንስ አደረግከው ለለን በራሳችሁ
ጆቢራው ፕሮዳክሽን ኤፍራታ እኔም ከኪሴ የባለቤቴን እናትን በጣም በዚህ ማመስገን ፈልጋለሁ ወይዘሮ ወርቅነሽ ለማ መኪና ሰጥተውን እንደዚህ ነው በቤተሰብ በምንድነው ወጪውን ልንሸፍን የቻልነው እና 45ቱንም ቀን አልተከታተልነው የተወሰኑ ቦታዎች ላይ ክፍተት ነበረው ግን መጨረሻ ላይ ግን ያንን ክፍተት ደግሞ እንሸፍን በማለት ያላገኘናቸው አንዳንድ ነገሮችን ለማግኘት ተጨማሪ ደግሞ ታሪካዊ ቦታዎችና የኢትዮጵያን መልክዓ ምድር የሚያሳዩ ቦታዎችን እናሳይ በፊልሙ በማለት የተወሰኑ ዲቶሮች እንዲያደርግ
ወስዳችሁ ነበር
አቡነ ዮሴፍን ሄዶ አየ
ኢንትረስቲንግ
ብዙ ሰው አይቶ የማያውቀው መኪና መድኃኔዓለም የሚባል የጥንት ቤተክርስቲያን የኖህ መርከብ የሚመስል ዋሻ ውስጥ የተሰራ ብዙ ሰው ያቆም
እኔም ሰምቼ አላውቅም
የሚገርሙ ቦታዎች አይቶ በፊልሙም ተቀርጸው ቀርበዋል
በጣም ደስ ይላል ሲያጠር ያለች ረፍት ወስደን እንመለሳለን
በእኛ አካባቢ ሌባል እና ጸጉረ ልውጥ ሰዎችን ይያዝን እናጣራለን እንደ ፖሊስ ማለት ነው እሱ ሲመጣ ደግሞ ነገረን ወደ ላሊበላ ነው መጓዘው አለን ከዛ በኋላ የት ነው የምታድረው ስንለው እዚህ ተባበር ነው እንዲያድር አደረግ ነው ጉዞ በጣም ፈጣን ከሆነ ፈረስ መቀየር አለበት
I do believe that this horse will be the horse to make it to Lalibela. I hope so. If not, I will have to leave him as I've left other Abyssinians. I will leave him if he can't.
Breathe in the root የሚባል ዶክመንተሪ በቅርብ ጊዜ የሰራውን ክሪስ የሚፈልገውን ነገር አግኝቶ ተመለሰ ማለት ትችላለህ እሱን ኢንተርቪው ማድረግ እድል አጋጥሞን ነበር ትንሽ ቴክኒካል ዲፊከልቲ ስለነበረ እሱን ማምጣት አልቻልንምና ምን ይላል ትላለህ የሱ መንገዱን ስለ መንገዱ ሲናገር ስለ ኢትዮጵያ ምን ይላል
በራሱ ቃል ቢገልጸው እንዴት ነው ነበር ግን በጣም ነው የተለወጠው በፊልሙም ላይ ይታያል ሰከን ያለ መንፈስ ነው ያለው ሲጨርስ ብዙ ነገሮችን አብላልቶ ስለ ኢትዮጵያም ስለ ራሱ ማንነት እና አፍሪካን አሜሪካን ማለት ምን ማለት እንደሆነ ብዙ ነገር ይዞ ነው ወደ አሜሪካ የተመለሰው አሁን አሜሪካን ሀገር ውስጥ ኮሎምቢያ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ማስተርዙን እየሰራ ነው በቅርቡ ይመረቃል ከዚህ ቀደም አነኮስቲያ አርት ሴንተር ፊልሙን አሳይተን ነበር
What was the reception ሰው እንዴት ተቀበለው
የሰው አቀባበል በጣም ደስ የሚል ነው ከጠበቁት በላይ ነው
That's wonderful
ከትውልደ ኢትዮጵያውያኖችም ከየውጪ ዜጎችም ከአፍሪካን አሜሪካኖች ካሪቢያን አሜሪካኖች በጣም ነው የወደዱት የተለያዩ ቦታዎች አሉ ውስጣቸውን የሚነካና ይሄንን ሁሌ ቃለ ምልልስ እናደርጋለን ከፊልሙን ካሳየን በኋላ አናኮስቲያ ስናሳየው አንዱም ጥያቄ ይሄ ነበር ምንድነው ላንተ ህይወት እንዴት ነው የተለወጠው ይሄን ጉዞ ካደረክ በኋላ እና መልሱን ማንነቴን ያወኩት ከዚህ በፊት ደፍሬ የማላደርገውን ነገር ደፍሬ እንዳደርግ ነው ያስቻለኝ በራሴ መተማመንን ሰጥቶኛል ዩኒቨርሲቲ ውስጥ አሁን ፕሮፌሰሮቹን ራሱ ያስተማረ ነው በፊት እንደዚህ አይነት ድፍረት አይኖረኝም ነበር እንደ ጥቁር አሜሪካዊ አፍሪካን አሜሪካዊ ያ ሌብሉ እንደ ጫና የሆነው ነገር ያንን ሁሉ ነው ያነሳልኝና
That's interesting
በራሴ ኮርቼ በማንነቴ በታሪኬ ኢትዮጵያ ታሪክ የኔም ታሪክ ነው ብዬ ያ ደግሞ ያ ኩራት ያ የማንነት ማወቅ ብዙ ነገር እንድሰራ አስችሎኛል ነው የሚለውና
That's wonderful
ህይወቴ ተለውጧል ነው የሚለው በጣም
ኢትዮጵያኖችስ ይሄን አይተው ከዚህ ምን እንዲወስዱ ታስባለህ
ይገርማል ይሄንን በመንሰራበት ጊዜ ፖስት ፕሮዳክሽን ላይ ሙዚቃውን እዚህም ላይ መጥቀስ የምፈልገው ኬኒ አለን ነው የሰራልን ትራኩን ግን የተለያዩ የሙዚቃ ባለሙያዎችን መተው እንዲመለከቱትና ሐሳብ እንዲሰጡ ጠይቂያቸው ነበር እና በጣም ነበር የሚገርማቸው እኛም ሄደን የማናቆን አይቼ ማላቆም ቦታ ነው ይሄ ልጅ ሄዶ ያየውና ሄደው እንዲመለከቱ ይገፋፋቸዋል ታሪካቸውንም እንዲያውቁ እነዚህ ታሪካዊ ቦታዎችን እንዲያውቁ ሰው ፌስቡክ ላይ ነው ዛንዚባር ሄድኩኝ ሴሸልስ ሄድኩኝ ማድሪድ whatever shopping ሄደን ሲሉ ላሊበላ ሄደ ስንቱ ነው እና ያንን እንዲገፋፋ ሄደው እንዲመለከቱ ስለራሳቸው ማገር ባህላቸውን እንዲያውቁ ላሊበላን ብቻ ሳይሆን ደግሞ መንገድ ላይ ያሉትን ቦታዎች ብዙ ታሪካዊ ቦታዎች ነው ያሉት ያንን ሁሉ በራሳችን ሀገር ቱሪስት ሆነን እንድንመለከት ይሄንን የሚገፋፋ ነው እዚህ ሀገር ብዙ አመት የኖሩ ኢትዮጵያውያኖችም አይተው መንፈሴን ያደሱት ፌስቡክ አለን ለብሪዝ ኢን ዘ ሩትስ ብለው ሰዎች ሊያገኙ ይችላሉ ኢንስታግራምም አለን
እዛ ላይ ፖስት ታረጋለህ የት ከተማ እንደሚታይ ምናምን ከዚህ በኋላ
እዛ ላይ እንጽፋለን አሁን ሜይ 27 እዚሁ ዋሽንግተን ዲሲ የመጨረሻ በዲሲ አካባቢ የመጨረሻ ስክሪኒንጋችን ይኖረናል ስለዚህ ያላዩት ሰዎች እንዲመጡ ጋብዛቸዋለሁ እና አስተያየታቸውን ይጽፉልናል እና በጣም ውስጣቸውን ነክቶ የኢትዮጵያ አየሯ ትንፋሿን አፈቀኝ አፈሯን አፈቀኝ ይሄ የውጪ ሰው ሄዶ ያየው የተነፈሰው በሱ በኩል ትንሹን አግኝቻለሁ ግን አገሬ ሄጄ ራሴው ያንን እስካገኝ ድረስ በጣም ጓግቻለሁ የሚሉ ብዙ የሚገርም
መልእክቶች አግኝታችኋል It's wonderful well እንኳን ደስ አለ ትልቅ ስራ ነው የሰራኸው hopefully እንግዲህ ብዙ ሰው ይመለከታል ብዬ አምናለሁኝ ይሄ የመጀመሪያ ፕሮጀክት አይደለም ብዙ ነገሮች ስትሰራ ቆይተሃልና ጻፊነትህም የጻፍከው መጽሐፍ Beyond the Throne the enduring legacy of Emperor Haile Selassie የሚል መጽሐፍ ጽፈህ ነበረ ወደፊት የመጽሐፍ ሐሳብ አለ ይሄንን መጽሐፍ ማንበብ ለሚፈልጉ ሰዎች የት ማግኘት ይችላሉ
እንግዲህ Beyond the Throne የተጻፈው አጼ ኃይለ ሥላሴ ዳግም ሲቀበሩ በዛ ወቅት ነበረ እና ከሻማ ቡክስ ጋር ያኔ ከያሰር ባገርሽ እነሱንም ማመስገን ፈልጋለሁ በእነሱ በኩል የሰራነው ስራ ነበረ ለወደፊቱ ብዙ ነገር አስቤያለሁ አሁን ከኢትዮጵያ ስመጣ ወደ 11 ኤክስተርናል ድራይቭ ሙሉ ፎቶግራፎች ያጠራቀምኳቸው ፎቶግራፎች ጽሁፎች ብዙ ነገር ይዤ ነው የመጣሁትና በፊት የነበረው የሩጫ ኑሮ ያንን በረንብ አድርጌ ፕሮሰስ ለማድረግና ምን እንዳያስኩኝም ለማየት ጊዜ አልነበረኝም አሁን ግን ያንን ያወጣው ያያየሁት በጣም ራሴም ያስደሰተኝ ነው ያሳለፍኩት ጊዜ እና መጽሐፍም ለመጽሐፍ እቅዳለኝ ኤግዚቢሽኖችንም ያሳየውኝ ነው ማያሚ ላይ የተለያዩ የፎቶ ኤግዚቢሽኖች ነበሩኝ አሁንም እዚህ ዲሲ አካባቢ maybe the next 2 weeks ከሙኒት መስፍን ጋር joint event ለማድረግ እቅዳለን እና ለማስተማር ነው እንግዲህ ይሄንን ፊልም ስንሰራ ብሪዝ ኢን ዘ ሩትስን ስንሰማ ከኢትዮጵያ አፍሪካ እና ከአሜሪካ ጋር ከጥቁር አሜሪካኖች ጋር ከዳያስፖራው ጋር ያለውን ግንኙነት የማስተሳሰር ስራ ነው እና እንደዛው ለመቀጠል ነው አሁን በተለያዩ ዩኒቨርሲቲዎችም ለማሳየት ነው ሐሳባችን ተጨማሪ ፕሮጀክቶችም በዚሁ መንፈስ ለመስራት ነው እንግዲህ
ሐሳባችሁ ሌላ የሰራሁም ዶክመንተሪ ነበርና UNICEF and packed about wild coffee እሱስ ምንድነው
the wild coffee it's with the University of Huddersfield so it's ከዩኒሴፍ ጋር ብዙ ፊልሞች እንዳልኩት ወደ ፊልም የገባሁት እዛ ከዶክመንተሪ ከሚሰሩ ሰዎች ጋር እዛ መጀመሪያው እንደውም በያለድ ሜጋ ብቻ ላይ የሰራ ነው ከኖርዌጂያን ቲቪ ብዙ አዋርዶችን ያሸነፈ ፊልም ነበረ
That's fantastic እሺ
ግን ስለ ዋይልድ ኮፊ ከዩኒቨርሲቲ ኦፍ ሃደርስፊልድ ጋር የሰራ ነው ፊልም ነበር እሱም በደቡብ ምዕራብ ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ አሁን ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ሬን ፎረስት እንዳለ ታውቂ ነበር
No
so yeah በአማርኛ ሬን ፎረስት እንግዲህ ደቡብ ምዕራብ ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ የቡና የተገኘበት አካባቢ እና በተለያየ ምክንያት ይሄ ጫካው የጥንት ጫካው እየተመነጠረ እየጠፋ ነው እና ያንን ደግሞ ለማዳን በደኑ አካባቢ የሚኖረውን ህዝብ ከደኑ የሚገኙ ፕሮዳክቶችን እነሱን እየተጠቀሙ ደኑን እንዲጠብቁ እንዳይጨፈጭፉ ለማድረግ የሚሰራ ፕሮጀክት ነበርና ዶክመንተሪውም ተሰርቶ አሁን በዩቲዩብ ላይም ማግኘት ይችላሉ ሰዎች በጣም የሚደንቅ ቦታ ነው ትንፋሹም አየሩም በጣም የሚገርም ቦታ ነው እንደዛ ያለው ይሄንን አየር በትልቅ ቱቦ ሰክተን ቀጥታ ወደ አዲስ አበባ መጣን ብናመጣው እንዴት አሪፍ ነበር እና የተፈጥሮ ሀብታችን
የታካቢ ነው እንደገና
ሸካ ዞን so it's ኦሮሚያም አለው ደቡብ ህዝቦች ጋምቤላ ዛ ቦርደር አካባቢ
oh interesting
እና በጣም ለተፈጥሮ ሀብታችን ለክላይሜት ለዝናብ ትልቅ አስተዋጽኦ ያለው ቦታ ነው አደጋ ላይ ያለም ቦታ ነው መጠበቅ ያለበት አካባቢ ነው እና የሚገርሙ ነገሮች ያሉበት
interesting so እንዳንተ አይነት አሁን ብዙ ያልተነገሩ ታሪኮች አሉ I mean our story ምንም barely scratch the surface ምንም ብዙ ስለ ኢትዮጵያውያን ውስጥ የተለያዩ ኢትዮጵያውያኖች የተለያየ ስራ ስለሚሰሩ ስላለፉባቸው መንገዶች it could be about anything ብዙ የኛ ታሪክ አይነገርም እና ወጣቶችን encourage ለማድረግ ብዬ ነው አንዳንዴ እንደው እንችላለን ወይ እንደዚህ አይነት ፕሮጀክት you know if they want to do documentary መስራት ቢፈልጉ አነስ ያለች ፊልም መስራት ቢፈልጉ ምን አይነት ምክር ተጣጣቸዋል ምክንያቱም ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ እንደዚህ አይነት ነገር አዘጋጅቶ ማቅረብ ሪሶርስ በቂ ከሌለ በጣም ሊያስቸግር ይችላልና ግን ታሪካችን መነገር አለበት የእያንዳንዳችን ታሪክ ዋጋ አለው አይደለ I'm a firm believer in that የዚህ የዩሮፒያን ዌስተርንን ታሪክ በሙቪ በምን ስናይ የነሱን እንደው ራሳቸውን ከፍ ያደረጉበት በሚያሳዩዋቸው ነገሮች ብቻ አይደለ የኛም እንደዛ መነገር አለበትና ምን ምክር ተጣጣቸዋል ወጣቶች ቢያስቡ ግን እንዴት አርጌ ልጀምረው ብለው ትንሽ ግራ ለገባቸው ወጣቶች ብዕራቸውን አንስተው ወረቀት ይዞ መጻፍ መጀመር ነው ምንም ሳይፈሩ አሁን ትልቁ እንደ እንቅፋት የሚሆነው ልጻፍ ብሎ የሚያስብ ሰው የሆነ ስትራክቸር መከተል አለብኝ የሆነ እንደዚህ መሆን አለበት እንደዛ አይደለም የመጣላቸው ነገር መጻፍ መጀመር ያ ኖት መውሰድ ይሄ የመጀመሪያ እርምጃ ነው ብዬ ነው ማምነው ግን ወደ ዶክመንተሪም ወደ ፊልም በሚዲያ ለስራ የሚል ሰው አሁን በትንሿ ስልክ ስንት ነገር መስራት ይቻላል እና አለመፍራት ነው ሐሳባቸውን ለመግለጽ ሐሳባቸውን ሪኮርድ ለማድረግ አለመፍራት ያንን ብዕር አንስቶ በጽሁፍ ማስቀመጥ ፊልም በስልክም ራሳቸውን ወይም ደግሞ ማሳየት የሚፈልጉትን ነገር ያንን ዶክመንት ማድረግ ከዛ ደግሞ ትንሽ ሪሰርች ካደረጉ ብዙ ኢንተርኔት ላይ የሚገኝ ብዙ ነገር አለ ግን ያው መስራት ይችላል ከጽሁፍ ነው የሚጀምረው good luck that's great yeah. thank you Andres
እኔ ማመሰግናለሁ
ምኞቴ እንግዲህ ሁሉ ሰው እንዲያይልን ይሄን ነገር እንኳን ደስ አለ Facebook ነው ያለው for the Breathe in the Roots
Breathe in the Roots Facebook page አለው ያው Breathe in the Roots እና በኢንስታግራምም Breathe in the Roots አለን Eventbrite ላይ breatheintheRoots.eventbrite.com እዛ ላይ ማግኘት ይችላሉ እኔንም በኢንስታግራም መከተል ይችላሉ Andreas GK so it's INDRIAS GK Instagram handle so
That's
follow.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
አመሰግናለሁ ሄለን በጣም
Thank you. ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ፕሮግራማችን የዛሬ ፕሮግራማችን በዚህ ላይ ያበቃል በሚቀጥለው ሳምንት በሌላ ፕሮግራም እስከምንገናኝ ደህና ቆዩልን